Welcome to Purana Talk.
Hi, I'm Leon.
I'm Alan.
We're the Purana guys.
Chapter 157, Diseases. Dhanvantari said, O Sushruta, I shall explain the pathology of dysentery and diarrhea. It just gets better and better. I love it. They are of 6 types. The doshas severally and in combination produce 4 varieties, and fear and sorrow produce 2 types. Dysentery is usually caused by drinking too much of water. The vayu becomes aggravated due to the injudicious intake of dry foods, fatty foods, fried things, jelly seed cakes, sesame seed cakes, shoots,
they're oily,
and germinated shoots and germinated sprouts, and inordinate quantities of wine, day sleep, worms, and suppression of natural urges for excretion.
I'm going to make a note for food there because you've got a bunch of foods mentioned.
Yes. Well, Ayurveda is largely about eating. So, but these are all dysentery involving vayu becoming aggravated. The vayu becomes aggravated due to the injudicious intake of list to follow. The aggravated vayu causes the downward rush of the blood, extinguishing the gastric fire. For all of this to work correctly, the gastric fire has to be working well, not overly heating and not underly heating, because it has to digest the offering, the food. Again, this is this parallel I've been thinking about between sacrifice and eating and feeding. The aggravated vayu causes the downward rush of the blood, extinguishing the gastric fire. Then it permeates the inner chamber of food and feces and liquefies the waste matter. 5. The indication of its imminent onset is an acute pain in the chest, rectum, and viscera, perspiration all over the body, and constipation. Distension of the abdomen, indigestion, and absence of fever are due to vayu. The patient passes scanty feces without any sound, but with constant interruptions. The waste matter is hard, turbid, frothy, and knotty. A burning sensation in the fleshy region of the rectum is felt. The lubricious surface is cut up. There is a prolapse in the constricted anus. The patient gasps for breath and has horripilation all over the body. In the Pitta type, Pitta, aggravated, diarrhea and waste matter is yellow, black, turmeric-colored, and grass-colored with blood mixed with it. It has a fetid smell. The patient has a burning sensation, excessive thirst, and epileptic fits. If the cause is kapha, there is an acute pain in the anus with burning sensation. The waste matter is thick, slimy, and scanty in a continuous flow. If the 3 doshas in combination cause diarrhea, all the symptoms, and particularly horripilation, severe pain, and heaviness in bladder, belly, and anus are observed. The patient loses sense and thinks what he has done as not done.
So I think they're pointing out that you might lose consciousness or something like that if you dried out too much. They may not realize that's
You'll become forgetful that you've just done something.
Well, you dehydrate, and so you get all the symptoms of that.
I see.
Staggering, loss of memory,
yeah,
falling unconscious.
So it spent more attention on the vayu aggravated form, and then it does pitta, kapha, and all 3 in this section of 8 through 10.
Yeah.
Then 11, if extreme fright agitates the mind, the patient passes stool even as he lies down. The vayu liquefies it, and it passes out in warm jets. 12. If extreme agony causes diarrhea and symptoms are as in Vataja and Pittaja types, in brief, diarrhea can be divided into two: sama, or with mucus, and nirama, or without mucus.
They don't seem to know that some of these symptoms are being caused by creatures, and other ones are being caused by physical responses to things.
Although worms came out in one mention.
Okay.
It was mentioned back in the 2 to 3, second, third stanza, when it was giving Vayu becomes aggravated. Germinated sprouts, seed cakes, day sleep, worms, and suppression of natural urges. Okay. So there's one mention, and probably of a creature that was visible, not really a consciousness of creatures that might
like
be,
amoebas.
Yeah,
because that's the most common source of it. Dysentery in India would be amoebic dysentery.
I don't know that it would at this period been any more or less common than it would have been in the West at this time.
Since we're talking that's about probably true.
Medieval. Yeah, and once again, these suffix ja, vata ja, and pitta ja means just born of or caused by vata or pitta.
The squirting sounded like
and also the
dysentery to me.
Yes. And but that was also connected with the that was right after where it says if extreme fright agitates the mind, the patient passes stool even as he lies down, being scared shitless. I guess. Also, this sama and nirama is just a sandhi conjunction of sa with ama, which is in Ayurveda the notion they're translating it as mucus, but it's kind of the crap that accumulates, when you're clearing your throat. I mean, it's more than just the kapha. It's like the polluted stuff you want to get rid of in your system. So sama is sa ama and nirama is nira ama. So without ama. Okay. 13. In the sama type, the waste matter emits fetid smell. There is swelling, obstruction to the passage of ordure, and salivation. Not salvation, sorry. It would be an easy way to get it, I guess. The opposite characteristics are observed in nirama type. Due to kapha, none sinks.
I don't know what that refers to.
I don't know either. 14. Atisara, diarrhea, not given careful attention, may lead to grahani, acute dysentery, by taking in articles of food bringing about the quenching of gastric fire. Atisara is so called because there is plenty of evacuation, sara. There it's even getting into the etymology and explaining its terms. Atisara, plenty of poo.
Can we have the spelling?
Atisara?
Yeah.
A-T-I.
A-T-I.
Lots. Sara, S, long A, line over the A, R-A, S-A-R-A. Atisara.
And it's verse what?
15.
And
first mentioned in 14. Plenty of poo. Atisara, it's plenty of evacuation, it's saying. Evacuation, right. But we know we're not, it's not a fire drill.
All right.
15. Atisara is so called because there is plenty of evacuation of digested sama or nirama waste matter, with or without mucus crap. Mm-hmm. Hence, it is very active and virulent naturally. If sama is undigested, it becomes shattered. If digested, it does not become pavika, fully ripe and digested. Pakka, I would assume. So, like cooked, ripe. Cooked. Again, digestion and cooking. Putting in the fire.
What verse is that?
15.
All right, cooking.
Well, fully ripe. It doesn't say cooking. I said cooking.
No.
I'm thinking it's rather like, this notion. It does not become fully digested. It's not fully consumed by the fire. It could be a little bit like cremation. the ultimate offering to the fire, I guess. This is 16, a chronic atisara with the accumulations leads to grahani disorder, which is of 4 types. This is the acute dysentery, it said, or acute diarrhea, perhaps, since they're not really distinguishing causes. They're distinguishing causes as dosha aggravations, caused mostly by foods, but other things too. The 3 doshas severally and collectively being the cause. 17 to 21. The general symptoms of the onset of grahani are exhaustion of the limbs, purification of the body with delay, parenthetically, delayed evacuation, a little salivation, drought in the mouth, non-relish for food, thirst, vertigo, binding pain in the abdomen, vomiting, and ringing in the ears. Some of these symptoms are also seen: weakness and emaciation of the body, acute tumaka fever, epileptic fits, numbness in the head and thighs, intumescence in hands and feet. Is that just like edema? Is that what they're talking about?
Swollen. Yeah, I think.
Drowsiness, parchedness of the palate due to the action of the wind, darkness of vision, noisy echo in the ears, pain in the sides, thighs, thigh joints, neck, etc., and acute cholera.
They're talking about situations where people become hepatic.
What does that mean, acute cholera? I mean,
turning yellow.
Turning yellow.
I think is what
choleric. They mean. That would usually be
associated. They're going to even mention yellow
with a pitta condition. Yellow and pitta go together. Okay. 22. In weak patients, the symptoms are very pronounced. Hunger and thirst greatly oppressing them. There is inflation of the belly during the process of digestion or on the completion of the same. After taking meal, the patient gets some relief. In the Vataja type of grahani, the following indications can be seen: palpitation of the heart, enlargement of the spleen, piles, jaundice, loss of sense, passing of either loose or hard, lumpy, dry waste matter and froth, and loud report, gasping for breath and hiccup. The motion is frequent. 24. In the Pittaja type of grahani, the waste matter is either yellow or bluish yellow and liquid in nature. Acid eruptions, burning sensation in the heart and throat, non-relish for food, and excessive thirst are also seen. 25 to 27. Difficulty in digestion, painful motion, vomiting, non-relish for food, burning sensation in the mouth, frequent spitting, cough, disquietude and catarrh, sensation of bulkiness in the heart, distension and heaviness of abdomen, eructation and with defiled sweetness, lassitude, horripilation, etc. are the specific features of the Kaphaja type. The waste matter is thick, split up, and charged with mucous matter. Even if the patient is not lean, he feels weak. In the Sanipataja grahani, all the symptoms are observed. Sanipataja, I think, is where all 3 doshas are acting in this case, but I'm not positive. I think that's what that must mean. It has the ja ending born of Sanipata, and if I were paying attention to myself, it probably was explained earlier. 28 to 29, the first 3 types are very disorderly. All the symptoms mentioned above are observed in Grahani 2. 8 ailments are called Maharogas, great illnesses. They are incurable. They are rheumatating gravel in urine or stone in bladder, leprosy, epilepsy, dropsy, gonorrhea, piles, and Grahani, which we've just been talking about.
Right. Well, very interesting. The things I notice is that it gives us this time a lot about what causes it. It doesn't really recommend anything to do about it.
Well, that's largely what's been going on, in my opinion. It's a symptomology, not a...
Right. So it's not really a therapeutic manual so much as a way of talking about what the different diseases are.
It weighs in on whether it's curable or not, often.
Possibly, yeah.
treatable or treated early, but it doesn't go into
to what the treatments are.
Yeah. So
it did in some cases, like we got specific plants,
but it's
that were
definitely not its
recommended and
primary
things like
focus.
that, but it isn't. It didn't do it this time much. It talked more about what it thought the causes were, but it didn't really
looking down the
talk about
road,
the remedy.
there may be more of that coming up, but yeah, it's mostly it's a diagnostic. Yeah, it's a diagnostic symptomology. Makes you want to use all sorts of big weird old.
Thanks for exploring early medieval medicine in India, because that's what we're really doing. Is we're imagine that everything you have to memorize, and so you've put everything into poetic kind of rhythmic speech, and then you've repeated it and taught it to other people who've repeated it, and that's what the Puranas were.
And you can go online and search and actually hear examples of people doing the recitation in Sanskrit. It's interesting just to hear how it was preserved, how it would sound to the ear, even if you don't understand the words.
It was very poetic and rhythmic and chanted, but it carries this meaning as well. And so we're not used to religious texts having this kind of content, having, a whole crash course in medicine.
Is diarrhea even mentioned in the Bible?
I don't know. I've read the Bible. I don't remember anything about that, but that doesn't mean it didn't come up somewhere.
Or poop.
I don't.
In the Bible?
I don't remember it being acknowledged as something that happens.
And yet it's a part of life.
Yeah.
And so it appears in the great ocean of wisdom,
of
which the Puranas represent one point of access, a bunch of points of access.
So it's definitely interesting. The ones that we've recorded so far don't really do justice to the variety of content that these have.
And we will continue to apologize for that until we get to the fun parts again.
But
they do exist.
They are coming. And we looked ahead and we could see about 100 pages from now we start getting stories.
And for some of you, this is fun.
If you're interested in medieval thoughts about medicine, it's really informative. But because what we're really looking at is how they divided up what they thought the diseases were.
Oh, and much of Ayurvedic theory certainly has not changed significantly.
Right.
It's about how doshas interact in the creation of these things, and it is not just, by identifying what doshas are acting, you in fact are, in a sense, providing treatment because that knowledge is there. How do you pacify certain doshas? Well, there's certain, regimes of diet and behavior, when you get up, when you go to bed, what side you sleep on, what direction your bed faces, but especially eating. Lots of it has to do what you eat, when you eat it,
how you prepare it, all of these things.
When you eat it with, how much water you drink when you drink it, all of these things affect the doshas and how they balance. And when something is aggravated, if your pitta is aggravated, you don't eat hot, spicy, oily foods because that's just going to inflame it. Your digestive fire is going to go through the roof and it's going to burn you up along with the food. And, it may not even do a very good job at that because it's not efficiently functioning. So, on the other hand, if you don't have enough fire, you have to, which is often, considered a bigger problem. Probably it affects both vayus and kapha dominant people. Then, you need to fuel the fire.
Yeah.
We in the restaurant we tell people that the pickle is there, and because especially Westerners are like, oh, what have you given me? This thing is so intensely sour and salty and pungent. They would say even astringent. It may have 4 of the 6 russes or flavors going, and but it's to get it's like throwing a pellet on the fire that's going to burst into flame and get everything else burning well. If you need that digestive stimulation in the fire, then you can. That's the treatment that's implied if you take one dosha. Anyway, that's another matter. We could go on, and in fact, we shall at another time. But I think we've come to an end. We're in agreement.
Bye.
Bye.